What's up, all you fine folks of the internet? Mark with Kardavox Academy here, and today we're checking out a band that has been highly requested ever since the channel started. Ever since I started this whole Kardavox Academy thing a few years ago. I don't remember exactly when I started it. People have been requesting Deviloof. I really don't know anything about this band, like at all. People have constantly been requesting that I cover them. For whatever reason, it just hasn't happened. But apparently this song, Damn, is one that's worth checking out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, I did scroll through the comments a little bit. I haven't heard it yet, but I did scroll through the comments a little bit. And apparently this song is kind of like, a lot of people are saying that this is one of their best, or that, like, you know, they're really like expanding on or growing in their sound. So, you know, I'm taking that with a grain of salt. You know, if I really want to get a scope of this band, I might have to go back and listen to a little bit of their older stuff to kind of hear how they got here. But today we're just going to be checking out this song. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I am a metal vocalist myself. I'm in a band called Kardashev. We are on Metal Blade Records. And I am also a full-time vocal coach. I specialize in teaching harsh vocals. So teaching people how to, you know, do stuff like safely and efficiently for their music or hobby or professional needs. And here on the channel, we take the reaction format, we break it down, we pause, we talk about vocal technique, and we have a good time. So if you like the content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you learn something, let me know in the comments below. And I would love to learn something. I would love to learn what's behind the name Deviloof. I don't know. I have no idea. But anyways, let's go ahead. Let's just check it out. I think that's enough. That's enough joshing around. So let's go ahead, check out Deviloof. Damn. Here we go. All right, I know I shouldn't pause it there, but shit, that's where I'm going to pause it. All right, holy crap, that's a lot. Jesus. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot going on in one space. I'm not going to lie. So far, 1 minute and 2 seconds in, this song's awesome. It is absolutely chaotic. I'm gonna be honest. I got totally just like kind of sucked in and distracted from everything that was going on. It's very frenetic. You know, it's very chaotic. I will say though, one thing I'm really liking about his scream is that for now it's sounding like it's building on a fried tone, but he's getting a lot of warmth and darkness with an open embouchure for the tone that he's doing, and it sounds really good. We're gonna go back and we're gonna hear that isolated section again, because I love when metal vocalists isolate their screams in a song, where there's a brief moment of brief break and you can hear what the scream sounds like. And, you know, of course, there's going to be a little bit of, there's going to be some EQ, there's going to be some this and that. But I feel like what we heard there is probably pretty honest to what he actually sounds like, right? So I'm going to be a more active listener. I'm going to be a more active listener and deliver on the purpose of the channel, which is talking to you about the vocal technique happening in the song. But holy crap, that is nuts. Oh yeah, and you can see it's got like a little wave that a lot of people, they're actually skipping to this moment of the song. That's their loss, actually, because the whole intro is really good. All right, let's hear that again though. Holy cow. What a cool tone. Holy cow. Wow. Y'all, I've heard a lot of metal vocals, and I don't like, obviously I love metal vocals. It's part of my it's my career. that's a tone that I'm not really that familiar with. We can hear, so what we can hear is we can hear sort of like a head voicey note underneath, and he's got like this really like smooth like glissando slowly raising his pitch. And the really cool thing that's happening here is that his pitch is raising, but his distortion is staying the same, right? Makes me think his larynx is very steady. The distortion does change a little bit. Dang, that is nuts. I am like thoroughly impressed with that scream. So, geez, I'm not going to try to attempt it because I'm going to be honest, I don't really know how. I can do a lot of vocal stuff, but I would have to take some time with that. But I just want to talk about like how impressive that is to me, right? So first and foremost, I've already kind of pointed it out, but we've got this high note, this very like sort of heady note, slight glissando. Then we have the distortion basically staying the same. All of that is happening while the tone stays consistently warm. And generally for warmth, we need space. So pitch is lifting, larynx is probably raising slightly, but distortion is staying the same, and the scream is staying pretty warm and rounded. That's a lot of like, no, I don't want to say it's contradictory stuff, but that's a lot of stuff that like, you know, you have to have a lot of coordination. You'd have to have a lot of, I don't even know if I have that level of coordination to make that work. That's a, like, okay, so all the songwriting, all the composition, that's been really impressive so far. I love how he's spitting out his syllables, but that, shoosh, man, that is sick. I just want to play that on repeat nonstop, but like, holy crap. Sorry, Ludo, we're going to do it one more time. I'm not going to, Jesus. Oh. Shut up. Stop it. Those highs. Good Lord. I'm pausing all I want. It's my channel. If you don't like it, get the frick out of here. Let's talk about that. Damn. Let's talk about that. Holy shit. So, okay. So that high scream is really good, really articulate. And what we have there, so, okay, I got to step back. I'm getting too excited and I'm talking faster and my brain's moving. Or maybe my brain's moving faster than I'm talking. But, so, what we're hearing a lot of right now is a lot of like hybrid type of sounds. I wouldn't say like that high is a fry or that high is a false chord. Because what we have is we have a smush of things coming together. If I was to try for a tone similar to that, that's kind of where I would go. When I do that, I am feeling a sort of like remnant of like a false chord. But it's I don't like the word compression, but it's the word that we use. And it does describe like the strategic narrowing of certain places within our vocal tract. I just think that sometimes it leads people to think that when we talk about compression, we're like squeeze as hard as you can and push as hard as you can. That's like not what we're talking about at all. But I'm feeling a little remnant of that loose false chord, but I'm also feeling, interestingly enough, some arytenoidal flop. Now the arytenoids are a really important thing when it comes to our vocals. And you can do screams that are like mostly based on just the arytenoids. You can mix some arytenoid in with your false chord fry or fry. A lot of people, their arytenoids will kind of like pop in naturally. I've just kind of noticed from teaching vocals for the years that I have. But if I take my voice and I sort of narrow it, right? So I'm going to go, it sounds like that. But very importantly, I'm actually going to disengage my vocal cords. I always do that. Vocal cords. I'm going to disengage them. And rather than doing like a false chord, and then like a higher version, I'm going to move through that space. And that Yeah, that feels very arytenoidal. And I also feel like the postpharyngeal wall, like almost doing like this, right? And the postpharyngeal wall is just the very back of the mouth. If you shine a flashlight back there, you look in the mirror, it's just the very back, behind the uvula, behind the little palatopharyngeal folds, all the way back. Now, how am I getting it like so tight? I know how is he getting it so like tight and narrow? Well, there's a what I'm doing is I'm thinking about moving my mouth or moving my voice to the front of my mouth. Like this right here. Very forward, very, very tight in the lips, right? I'm not squeezing the actual vocal cords here. Yeah. You can hear the vocal cords themselves, they're relaxed. And when I go for the distortion, I'm going to disengage them, right? So I'm here. Now I'm going to like lift up my tongue and I'm actually going to take up some space. I'm going to purposefully partially occlude the pharyngeal space. Now I'm going to remove, I'm kind of figuring this out as we go. You're just watching me do it. I'm going to remove the vocal cords and I'm going to bear down with my support a little bit. Now, that's important because anytime I'm going to add extra pressure, I want to say, hey, vocal cords, take a break. Take a break. Because one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to create a lot of subglottal pressure, right? Subglottal pressure, which is essentially pressure underneath the vocal cords, underneath the glottis. There are exercises out there that cause us to go like, huh, huh, huh. And like, I have mixed feelings about them because they can be very beneficial. Yet at the same time, sometimes I've seen people do them unguided and in their heads, they think, okay, well, more squeeze, more pressure is good. And it's like, no, that's actually a very easy way to get some vocal damage, right? If not in the immediacy, over time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually allow the air to sort of slip over and around my tongue. Sounds like this. This is the voice I'm doing. Which is interesting. You can hear that I have a dropped soft palate. And generally speaking, that makes screams harder. Anyways, he's doing really good at it and it sounds amazing. And like, I'm just very impressed at this guy's acrobatics. I'm going to go back a little bit and then we're going to listen to more. This song is like blowing my mind right now. All right, let's talk about those lows. What the hell's going on? Also, does anybody hear this weird like going on in the background of the song? What is that? Let's talk about those. Okay. So, when we're doing lows like that, this is actually something I talk about on my channel a lot, and it's very common, and it can be tricky to start, but it's actually not that hard to do once you get it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lean on those arytenoids, right? I'm going to lean on those arytenoids, and that's going to give me a right there. Now, that tone in and of itself is just kind of a basic unseasoned mid, right? It's kind of like a saltine cracker mid, right? Tell me your jokes in the comments below, because I know what I set myself up for. I know what I did to myself just then. But if I take that and I think about creating space in the front of the mouth, right? I think about, okay, how can I let the sound leave the mouth, but kind of bounce it around a little bit? Well, what's something, and this is a very good, solid guttural technique. What's something that I can bounce the sound off of? My tongue. All I did was lift my tongue. A lot of people, they'll be tempted to drop their larynx. You don't need to do that. Drop the jaw a little bit. Push the lips out. All of those different grunts I was doing, there's not like a tremendous amount of squeeze going on in the throat. Now, what I am doing is I'm taking the tissues above the vocal cords and I'm kind of bringing them in, right? And you can hear that, like, you can hear that if I do it with my normal voice, the back of the tongue is slightly squeezing, right? I sound like Kermit the Frog here, right there. And I can do a little grunt through there, ho, ho, ho. If I slowly, again, disengage my vocal cords, I don't need them, right? They're just not useful to me for this scream. If I disengage my vocal cords and lean into good solid breath support, right, which is a whole video in and of itself, I get these really cool sounds that aren't even that hard to do once you get it. I want to talk about disengaging the vocal cords. This is a really difficult thing for a lot of people to do, and it's all in the mind. It's all in the mind, right? Because in actuality, it's not like our vocal cords are something that we're like turning off and on. We're just like choosing not to use them. And you out there, this is a conversation I've been having with all my students recently. You are an absolute pro at not using your vocal cords, which, by the way, it's not like a sin to have the sound of your voice in a scream. But I do think you should have control over it if you want to be super acrobatic, right? You should be able to mix it in and out freely, and you shouldn't be putting the bulk of your distortion. I mean, really, with the exception of like some like baseline fry distortion, you really shouldn't be getting a whole lot of grit and slap of tissue on the vocal cords themselves, right? So say, repeat after me. Let's Dora the Explorer this whole thing. Repeat after me. S, Z, Z, F, F, V, V, T, 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 D, 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 P, 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 B, 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 B. We don't have letters to differentiate this in English. They do in Icelandic, probably some other languages, but the TH in father, the TH in bath, right? Those are all voiced or non-voiced phonemes, voiced or non-voiced sounds, right? And so I can either, hey, sound of vocal cords, hey, it sounds kind of silly. Although Travis Ryan makes it sound awesome, right? Now I can just, the same way, I can go from zzz, I can go, right? Now, the reason it's harder than just doing those consonants and vocal sounds like the S and the Z and the THs is because the pieces that we're coordinating are very, very close together, right? Your false folds, your retinoids, your ariepiglottic folds, all of these pieces of all of these tissues are like sitting right above the vocal cords, right? So it's kind of like if you were like to hold your hands like this and move your pointer and ring fingers, but keep the middle fingers steady. It's really difficult and it takes a lot of coordination, but how do you get good at it? You just kind of do it over and over and over again. And to be doing these more like strategically small sounds, you should have a very good understanding of not only the relationship between airflow and distortion, but the relationship between relaxation and distortion and what good breath support actually means. Now, I've been talking a lot longer than people who like this song probably want me to be talking. So I guess I'll push play, but I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. Here we go. That's a little different.
I look into your eyes.
Our lives have been changed so much. Our lives have been changed
so much. Our lives have been changed so much. Our lives have been changed so much. Our lives have been changed so much.
Do it. What an absolute boss. Chew. All right. Man, oh man. Some seriously cool stuff. That's one of the that's one of the more enjoyable songs I've and we're going to talk about a little bit more, but on the channel here, man, good golly. It's one of the best times I've had just like with one of these first time listens in a long time. So, a couple things that I want to talk about. First and foremost, two things, and then we'll wrap it up. So, one thing I really like is how he's sliding the resonance sort of back and forth. One thing he's leaning on a lot is sort of a vocal theme in this song is going back and forth from like to right. Now, the way that can be kind of tricky for new vocalists, but more experienced vocalists can tell you that it's actually really, really simple. And it's a really fundamental concept, not only in harsh vocals, but singing, in speaking. And it's that if I take, this is an example I use with my students a lot. If any of my students are watching this, they're probably going to roll their eyes because they're going to be like, Jesus, this guy does not shut up with his analogies and examples. So here's one for you. When I say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, there are thousands of things going on, but we can kind of group them into two separate situations or two separate categories, right? I've got my phonation, right? Right? And I've got my articulation, right? This is just movement. I'm shaping the sound. I'm sort of molding it as it comes out of my face, right? Right? And then I got the vocal cords. Right? I put those things together. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You have talking, you have speaking, right? You have phonation, you have communication, right? This is true with a lot of singing as well. When you sing a line, you're just holding a steady, even tone. Okay, depending on what you're doing, but generally you're holding a steady, even tone and then you're articulating it, right? Now, this is the same with screaming, right? A lot of times when people are like really impressed, and it is impressive, you should be impressed by it. But when people hear a vocalist and they're doing stuff like, like this, like you hear in the song, when they're doing a lot of those movements, what's happening is that either they're staying on one scream and then moving their articulation around, or they're just switching between two screams and moving their articulation around. And that sounds tricky, and it is tricky, but once you get it, it's not that bad. How do you practice this? Well, first of all, get really good at tone. At least consistent tone, right? You should be able to find just a simple, doesn't have to be fancy. We'll say unseasoned again. An unseasoned, right? Nothing crazy. And then I'm going to move my mouth around that. And I'm just going to say like, I don't know. I'll just kind of mess around. I'm going to say, I'll say, Deviloof Dam. Okay, so here's the tone. Deviloof Dam. Deviloof Dam. Right, it's just an even tone, and I'm articulating around it. Right now, it does get a little bit trickier because some consonants consonants by definition partially occlude your vocal tract, but some consonants close them off entirely. Right, so there are ways to compensate with this. Now I'm just kind of riffing, but like for example, as a vocalist, most of the time, if I'm going to say a K sound or a D sound, I don't want that full occlusion. I don't want that much of a stop to my airflow. because it causes the air to kind of build up. It can build up a little bit of pressure and it can be difficult to navigate. So let's say I was going to say, da ka, right? I don't know, whatever. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do like this sort of like tongue on the sides of my tongue on my teeth, this like lateral approximate sound. Da, 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 ta, da, ta. The D is da. The K is ta, ta, da, ta, da, ta, right? So, and on a track, it really sounds like a lot like a D and a K, right? Let me do it with an earphone off so I can hear myself better. Right? No one's going to notice that because as metal vocalists, we have the benefit of sort of existing behind the curtain of distortion, right? So we can do little like tips and tricks like that to make things sort of easy. The second thing that I was going to say is I really love how in his like higher spaces, now I'm not going to attempt to do the scream that he did because it's a little different than what I do and I just kind of want to digest it a little bit more. But if I was to do like a different type of scream, or at least one that's a little bit more comfortable to me, he's starting off with like a sort of whiny true chord sound, yeah, wah, yeah, and then dropping into some distortion, yeah, wah, say boy, everyone I say boy, right? And that's really fun to do. Although I will say that I generally don't advise if somebody's like, you know, interested in learning harsh vocals, like that being the place that you start, because whenever we're involving our true chords in any sort of scream, it's really important that we have degrees of separation between the distortion and between the vocal, the vocal folds, right? And so doing that means that now some people are just naturally talented at this, right? But most people aren't. I certainly wasn't. And so that being said, finding the tone of your grit free of your vocal folds then allows you to make sure it's in the right spot. So when your vocal cords do come in, whether they're coexisting or just acting as an onset, right? What that will allow is it'll allow you to, you know, be more sure that there is no unnecessary distortion being placed on your vocal cords. Now, the reason I say more sure is because here's the thing. Metal vocals are kind of risky, right? They just are. You can do them safely, just like you can drive down the freeway safely, right? But there's always a chance you're going to get in a car accident. So, like, you know, that's one thing. Now, I don't feel scared when I drive down the freeway. I don't feel scared when I do metal vocals. You shouldn't either. But you know, it is important to understand that there are elements of risk to it, and so that's why you want to take your time. And if you're not somebody who can just like hear a sound and replicate it, I wasn't for the longest time, then you want to be careful. But anyways, when you learn to put these sounds together, you have like, you know, yeah, and yeah, 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 so boy, and you get, you know, stuff like that. Anyways, not exactly what he was doing, but like I said, I'd have to sit with that for a while. Okay, so Deviloof. I think I'm a Deviloof fan. This is the only song I've ever heard of them, as far as I can remember. But if they're all even sort of like this, then they're all bops. If you like the content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. This is a really fun video to make. I had a blast with this one. Like, you know, leave me a comment. You can hang on our Patreon or in our Discord, accessible through our Patreon. And I give lessons. That's my job. That's my main thing. Is I give vocal lessons to help you learn how to do metal vocals safely. As always, many thanks. Much love. I'm out.